You're
Good
live.
evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the planning board meeting for November 19th, 2024. My name is Carrie Martinek, Chair of the Planning Board. Before I get started, I have a few announcements to read. This open meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on March 29th, 2023. All members of the Planning Board are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This act allows the Planning Board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Now I will confirm that board members and persons anticipated on the agenda are remotely present and can be heard by saying the following. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bill Pierce?
Here.
Anthony Zaitin?
Here.
Amy Paretsky?
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lori Connors?
Here.
Josh Van Houten?
Here.
Great. For ground rules for the meeting, for presenters and applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board will be conducted by roll call. For public comment by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Please note part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing the meeting. By Zoom, click raise hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized by the chair. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call on each by name and afford approximately 3 minutes for any comments. There is no executive session this evening, so with that, we will start with the first item on our agenda. First on the agenda, we will consider the application submitted by BD Homes LLC for special permits for a two-family dwelling in a residential C district and groundwater protection overlay district area 2 located at 343 Hudson Street. Before we get started, I will read the public notice into the record for this. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 9, the Northborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 19th, 2024 at 6 p.m. to consider the applications below. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during a state of emergency signed into law on March 29, 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. To participate in the public comment portion of this public hearing, please click on the URL and passcode provided in the agenda to join by phone. Also, details listed in the agenda as well as a live stream link. First, we will consider applications submitted by BD Homes LLC for a special permit and site plan review for the demolition of the existing structure and construction of a proposed two-family home on the property located at 343 Hudson Street, map 30, parcel 18, in the residential C zoning district and groundwater protection overlay district area 2. This application is on file at the town clerk's office and planning department and may be viewed on the planning board webpage. Okay, great. So for this particular application, who do we have from the team presenting
Now,
tonight?
Bruno Orlandi is already with us. We also need George Pember and Vito Colonna.
And Alvaro Martins, which is the architect and engineer for the project.
Al Martin, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so is this your full team here tonight? We have Vito, George, Al, and Bruno. Al, you're raising your hand there. Do you have something? No, maybe just indicating you're part of the team. Okay, great. Why don't we get started? Who's presenting tonight?
I'm starting.
Okay, great.
Good evening to the members of the board tonight. This is kind of an exciting project, and we're hoping you share our enthusiasm as you view the project. As you know, this property is located right on the curve where Hudson Street and Solomon Pond Road meet. The building that's currently there is at best an eyesore. It's also dangerous. It's an attractive nuisance to kids in the neighborhood. It's just a mess. A couple of years ago, I represented a totally different client. That client bought the property with the intention of turning what had been an existing house into a two-family house. There was some discussion as to whether or not this was a multifamily house all along or a two-family house all along. The assessor's records were pretty vague about that. At sometimes they had it assessed as multifamily, sometimes as two-family. In any event, the builder was pretty sure that he could turn that property into a viable two-family house using pretty much the existing structure, not a whole lot of additional work on it. After he bought the property, it turned out that the structure itself was a mess, and it wasn't feasible to convert it to a two-family. And then I was not involved in that aspect of things, but I believe there was some breakdown in between the new owner and the people who were financing him, and basically they ended up foreclosing on him, and then my clients came along and bought it at the foreclosure sale. What my clients have done is they have prepared the plans that you'll see tonight for a two-family house. And this house is, first of all, they're going to take down the eyesore and the mess that's out there. They're going to move the building away from the street, which will dramatically increase sight distances out there, which is an important consideration on this. The building will be a two-family house. It's a beautiful building. Al Martin, our architect, is here, and I'm sure he can give you any details that you need on the building itself. The house is going to be serviced by town water, town sewer, and gas. The connections are in the streets, no big deal to bring them in. And we're raring to go. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to the engineer and have Vito explain what we've done, because that's the plans are kind of complex, and I think that needs a couple of minutes of explanation. So Vito, if you could take over, please.
Sure. I don't know if we're able to share a screen for this. I don't really have that option on mine, but so what we've done, they've proposed a duplex building.
So wait, hold on a second there, Vito. I want to make sure we can see the plan as you're speaking to it. So you don't see a share option on your,
No, I just get the audio, raise hand, transcript, show captions.
let's
I don't
see.
think I'm a presenter. I'm just a,
Oh, okay. Let's see. Can we make you a panelist?
oh yeah, panelist. That's what I meant.
I think he needs to be a co-chair in order to share.
Okay. Well, who can share? Host and panelists. So if he's a panelist, he should be able to share as well. So let's see if we can change that. Promote to panelist. Here we go.
There we go. Yep.
Okay. All right. Do you see a share button now?
There we go. All right. Okay. So this is the proposed development essentially. The existing building George was talking about is right down kind of in this way, facing more towards the south. What we're intending to do is to take that building down and put a new duplex building in and rotate it to face more towards Solomon Pond Road. And we did that to also fit with the lot better, but also to get driveway access up in kind of this location as far as we could away from that corner. I don't know if all of you driven this corner and you know that the sight distance around that edge is not very good. So what we did is we moved that driveway around, gives it more sight distance, and actually it'll improve sight distance for motorists as they come around that corner also with that building gone. So it'll kind of help everybody, not just the development itself. We have available water and sewer connections. There's an existing sewer stub that we're going to connect into, and then we have water and gas services to each side of the duplex. Stormwater wise, we collected all the roof water and all the driveway runoff. We directed it to a infiltration dry well, and it'll infiltrate the full 100-year storm event. The driveway itself would be pre-treated through a storm scepter, so a pre-treatment device that'll take out most of the suspended solids and also floatables like oils, greases, gas, before it gets to the infiltration system. So there should be zero runoff from the roof or the driveway area during and up through the 100-year storm event. So it'll create a net runoff, decrease in runoff to the roadways in the town drainage system. And then as far as site development itself goes, we're proposing a retaining wall along the back here, just to give a level yard area. There's kind of a jump up towards Overlook Park. This roadway slopes up a little bit. So that's the only really other site feature out in the back, is just to give a level backyard out there. And then there'd be just decks off the back for each of the residences. So I think as far as the site plans go, they're fairly straightforward. And I'll just hand it back over, and if George wants to introduce any of the next part of the team, maybe the architect, to go with the look of the building.
George, anything from you there? Where is George? Is he still here? Oh, there he is. For some reason,
Muted though.
yeah, let's see if we can ask to unmute you there. You are a panelist now as well, so you should.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can.
Okay, so I'd like to just give Al an opportunity to have a quick comment or two. I think his plans have been thoroughly looked at, but Al, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I don't have the ability to share my screen. Maybe Bruno can share, but the duplex, we've obviously we don't have the completed set of plans.
Oh, so Al, I just made you a
Can you-
panelist, so you
Sure.
should also.
Yes, I'm operating off my phone, so I have
Oh,
no
okay.
ability to share my screen.
Okay. So is there someone who can show us what Al is speaking to?
I can share the screen. Just trying
Oh,
to.
great. Okay, so let's see if you're a panelist too.
Just one sec.
You're a panelist, Bruno, so you should be able to share. If you
Hold on.
can't, I mean, we have them
Yeah.
as well. I see.
Just recording the last plan, so make sure we are the.
Okay.
And I just continue to give you a quick overview of the duplex. I mean, we've been through the design review committee, with Laurie and Amy. They're very familiar with the drawings. Obviously, these are preliminary drawings, just to go through the design review committee and the planning board. Obviously, once we continue to move forward, we will have complete set of plans with structurals and all the bells and whistles. However, this building, it has all the tangibles requested by the design review committee. It blends in with the neighborhood. We are trying to get familiar with the neighborhood to see if we don't want to do anything that's going to overpower the neighborhood. Obviously, we considered height. We considered special types of colors. A special sidings. We've added bay windows and porches, porch, and different roof pitches, which were one of the biggest items that the design review committee had, which we got approved. The building is straightforward. You can see we even did some renderings to kind of show how it may look like. So if you guys have any other questions.
I guess my question would be, is the mention of the preliminary design, and it sounds like it's going to be changing. So when we went through design review, you submitted the design that you were gonna bring forward. So I didn't know what you meant, that it's preliminary and it's gonna change.
When we say preliminary, Amy, it's not completed. We're missing a complete foundation plan. We're missing the structural plans. We're missing the construction details, construction notes, and construction framing. However, everything that was approved by the design review committee is not changing. The facade is not changing. The exterior is not changing. The colors aren't changing. The window locations aren't changing. However, if we walked into the building department with those plans, obviously it wouldn't get approved because we are missing some construction details and notes and some structural drawings, which would get attached. And that's what I meant when it wasn't completed.
Okay, I just wanted to verify what you
Yeah,
meant.
everything else is not changing. What was approved is not changing.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board on this part, the design part here? Questions or comments? And then I'll switch over to, I know we have a couple letters from staff as well.
I just have some questions that this, if I remember correctly, it has a bit of elevation pitch to it. So you said is there a retaining wall going behind that? Is that what I heard?
Yes, to the rear of the rear of the building, there'd be a retaining wall. So it would be lower than, say, the elevation of Overlook Drive at that point.
What size, what is the elevation change there?
I think it's only a 4-foot wall. It's a
Oh.
3 to 3.5 foot tall wall.
Okay, it's for some reason seems much bigger because the building is, I think, closer to the road.
Mhm.
Okay. Lori, I was just looking for, I pulled up all my files here and I see the next application, your comments and recommendations, but I'm having trouble finding your comments for this. Do you mind speaking to anything you wanted to point out from your own comments and recommendations?
Sure. So for the most part, of course, they did already go through design review and the zoning board of appeals. So I've spent a good deal of time with this particular application to date. So there were only a couple of issues that still remained from my perspective. So one of those issues was addressed by Vito today. So I sent you this afternoon an updated site plan. One of the comments that I had is we still needed a construction detail of the walkways. So he submitted the revised plan with those walkways, and I am satisfied with the cross-section that he provided. Then another issue that I've been going back and forth with Vito about for some time has to do with actually, Vito, can you bring up that site plan again? You're on mute.
Yep, 1 second.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, great. So it's the southeast corner of Overlook Park. So right here, he and I have a difference of opinion over what exists in this location. So I took a photograph about a year ago, which in my opinion, this is concrete curb that used to exist and is now kind of a mess, is completely displaced. So the comment that I keep making is that when this area, so the proposal is to remove this driveway opening and to remove this driveway opening. Of course, you guys can't see my arrow.
Oh, right here.
but
Right here.
Vito is pointing it out to you.
Hmm.
So remove these two driveway openings and replace them with loam and seed, which I think is great. But my concern is to redefine that edge at the intersection. So preferably, I would like a vertical granite curb at that location to help with stormwater, keeping the stormwater within the road right of way. And I know Josh and I had discussed this, and I asked him to also lend his opinion as to whether he thought that it would be beneficial to redefine that edge with vertical granite curb. And I will turn it over to Josh. If you can lend your comments, that would be helpful.
Yep, we discussed this. I think it's a good idea to not only keep the water in the gutter there along the street, but also to provide more definition of the new layout. Might be a little confusing for somebody in the neighborhood that, hasn't been there since the redevelopment. They may drive up on the grass. They might assume that that's still someplace they can go through. I think maybe the curbing could be extended across where the previous opening was, on the northern side of Overlook Park.
Okay, so we could make this, it looks like in this letter, this note, this could be a condition of approval if need be.
Yes.
Board members, thoughts or questions about this particular matter?
Yeah, if we made it a condition, how many feet of curbing do they want? How many feet do you think is needed?
You want to just say extend through the existing curb cuts?
Yes. Yeah.
So from this one here to this one here?
I don't think we have to extend it on Hudson Street, but I'd like to see the rounding.
Yep. So just for, this rounding and then up to through the curb cut.
Yeah.
And then put a transition piece at the end.
Yep.
So George, this may be a question for you. I remember at the last time, I can swear there was an issue with the easement, and I see on the notes here, owner claims right away. Is that all cleared up, or is that something that I just don't want you guys to run into the same? I feel like that jammed up the last application some way, somehow. Is that, or maybe am I misremembering, or is this ringing a
No,
bell for anyone?
You're correct in your memory. Good for you. Overlook Park is so old that it's not clearly laid out, and so there is some question as to the exact location of Overlook Park. When my clients bought the property, they got title insurance, which basically gave them assurance that what they're buying, what they thought they were buying with the meets and bounds description, is in fact theirs. So the title insurance company is pretty comfortable with what they're claiming they own. It probably would take litigation on the part of someone from Overlook Park to challenge that and throw it in the court system for a couple of years. And they might come out a loser because the title insurance company is pretty comfortable with what we have now.
Okay, all right, that's good to know.
I just had one other thing that is actually a question for the design team. I was unclear by looking at the design plan whether you need to install utility boxes or whether the underground service is going to go right to the house. If you could comment on that, that'd be great.
Hey, Vito, is that something you can clear up? Because I'm not sure what I think I discussed with George, and he says there's no what was that, George?
It was a junction box.
Underground electric, I think what you're asking about, right, Lori?
I am.
So I'm not sure. I think that comes from the electric company in the end before they get
Correct.
permits. So I'm not sure if they'll need to put an exterior utility box out there that have meters on the side of the building, but I don't know if they're going to need an actual transformer. I don't
Okay,
think
so-
so.
So
But-
in that case, what I recommend is another condition of approval that says utility boxes, if any, shall be screened from view using appropriately sized vegetation. The number, species, and size of proposed screening vegetation shall be submitted to the planning director for review and approval prior to planting. If you folks are okay with that language, I'd like to include that as a condition.
Board members, any issues with that?
That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah,
I think we can live with that. That's okay, Kerry.
okay. So Josh, you had some other comments in your letter as well. Laura, anything else you want to speak to on your letter? I actually did find
Nope.
it, so I'm looking at
Nope,
it.
those were the only two concerns that I had. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then, Josh, you submitted a letter. Wait, I have two from you. Was one revised or I just opened it twice?
I think you might have just opened it twice. The letter is fairly straightforward. One of the big things is the operations and management plan and long-term pollution prevention program for the stormwater system. We want to make sure that the owners sign off on that and make sure that that'll be transferred, to any future owners. Want to make sure that this is functioning well into the future. It doesn't get filled up with any material which would affect the way it operates. There's also betterment fees that will have to be paid for the additional water and sewer services. I'll determine those fees and let the builder know what they are prior to the construction of those services. Those betterment fees will have to be paid before any occupancy permits are issued or any certificates of occupancy are issued. The existing sewer service that the owner plans to reconnect to, we'd like to get that video inspected prior to the connection, just to ensure that there's no issues with that line moving forward. We wouldn't want to see a connection made and then 6 months later, a new owner moves in and they have an issue with the sewer. So we just want to make sure that that is all good before we allow any reconnection. And just a note about an as-built plan to be submitted and approved to me prior to any certificate of occupancy. I do have one other question now that I'm looking at this plan. It looks like there's a pretty thick vegetative cover in the area where the wall is going to be. I assume during the construction that will all be taken out. The wall will be put in. Is there going to be any type of new vegetation or any type of barrier to prevent, cars from parking right next to the wall or perhaps even, sliding off the roadway in icy conditions and maybe hitting the wall?
So he just showed taking out these two trees and then they would clear out some of that vegetation. We didn't have any new protection. If that's something you want to see, probably get something added in there.
It
Yeah,
could be
there is some guardrail up in the beginning, but I don't think it extends all the way up. There's just a few, it's a small, and it's not in very good condition either.
Yeah.
There's a little piece right up in here. But
All right, I just think it's an issue that might come up.
I do have to say that they did submit a planting plan, so Vito, if you stop sharing your screen,
Yep.
I can share my screen. And then you can see there is actually vegetation proposed. So. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Let's try that again. So they are proposing additional vegetation in this location on the back of the wall. So I'd have to pull it up to tell you what the vegetation is. So if you just bear with me for a minute. There's
Got
a
a pretty
planting
good
list.
spreadsheet. Yeah, I have that up too if you need me to. So
Oh, it's I don't know if you folks know the Latin name. Unfortunately, I do not, and it doesn't give the English name other than to say it's an evergreen.
Hmm.
It's down there on the bottom, isn't it? Of the landscape,
Tula pileata.
So it's this.
13. Yeah, down, keep going down. The 13 there with your arrow. No, no,
Tua hilcata.
right at the top
It's-
of your screen there. To scroll back.
T-H-U.
Follow the plants right there.
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah.
this, but I don't know what that is.
Oh,
So in the plant list, there was an Excel spreadsheet that went along with this planting plan. And many of the Latin names included English names, but this one did not.
I think those are arborvitaes.
Okay.
It's coming up as a western red cedar.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it says evergreen anyway, so.
I'm pretty
Is
sure I
there
won't
a
use it
drop
again.
off between Overlook Drive and their backyard? Is there a 4-foot wall? Is that what you were saying?
So
Right.
Yeah.
this bold line
Mm-hmm.
is the retaining wall.
Okay.
So if somebody came around the corner of Overlook and slid in the winter, they could land in the backyard? And that's what you're saying, maybe we do need some sort of a guardrail type of fence?
The
It does
trees
look
might be
like we-
sufficient.
Hmm?
I think the trees might be sufficient.
How tall are they?
13 feet? No, wait, 20 feet.
So they're gonna be planted at 20 feet or they're gonna grow to 20 feet? Like sometimes they're planted, they're super small and it could take 20 years.
We'll plant them like 6 feet and they'll grow to 20.
So unfortunately, there isn't a key. So it says H, which I assume is height, 20 feet. And then next to that says S. I have no idea what that means. Maybe it's size of planting, and it says 5 feet.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then Josh, I didn't see anything from you in terms of how this meets the groundwater special permit requirement. So for example, I see in Fred's old letter from 2018, he spoke to runoff, a couple of other things we usually look at for the groundwater special permit. Is that something that you looked at just in terms of impervious, the percentage of impervious flood, anything like that, or?
I did look through the stormwater report. I didn't compare that to the town's regulations, but I can go through and take another look. Everything in the
Okay.
stormwater report looked good. It met the state standards and also the 10 standards from the town of Northborough. If you'd like, I can review it again and try to write another memo for you.
Yeah, we usually just, if it's a groundwater special permit, we have specific criteria for it. So I just want to make sure that that someone on town staff has looked at it and agrees that it meets the requirements.
Okay, I had assumed that Fred had already done that, but I'll take another look.
Oh, did he? I don't know. This was just from 2018 and it's a different plan now, so I'm not sure if that satisfies.
All right, I wasn't, I didn't get a chance to see the 2018 plan, so I wasn't sure if there was any changes, but I can review those as well.
The 2018 plan is completely different and
Yeah.
really has no bearing on this application.
So
So
Oh, okay.
I'll take a look at-
ignore any letter associated with the 2018 plan.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
take a look and make sure it meets the groundwater standards.
Okay,
I
great.
also
Fred,
read,
Fred did do another letter for the zoning board of appeals in 2024, which
Okay,
I
so
did send to you this afternoon. I can
Okay, yeah, I
see-
see that. Paul, the letter to Paul.
Yes.
but I did read in the minutes from that same night where it says Chair Tagliaferri asked if there were applicant had calculations for the impervious surface. Current, or proposed, and Attorney Pember did not have that information. And Ms. Connors said she would supply the information prior to going to the planning board. So I don't know if Fred did the impervious calcs.
Amy, when was that from?
That was when they did the approval in 2024.
Oh, okay, I think.
ZBA minutes from May 28th, 2024.
Okay.
Well, Vito, maybe you can comment on that.
Sure. So I have the existing and proposed impervious numbers if you want them now. We had existing of 6,010 and proposed is 6,360. So the post development is over 15%. But typically we are required just to recharge that excess. So in this case, we're recharging essentially all of the new impervious area to meet that standard. And the other standards are usually related to sewage flow, as far as if you had an on-site septic system. Here with the sewer connection, that really doesn't come into play. And then I think there's some other conditions about, not storing chemicals on site and stuff like that are not typical of, a residential structure like this. So, but I think those get added in as the conditions. I think you used to use Fred's letter as a condition of approval and stuff.
Right. Yeah, so that's what we're sort of missing here is that type of letter.
Yep. But we can work with you if there's any numbers that you need when you're putting the letter together or anything like that. If there's something that's not in the application package right now for some reason.
Okay. Did board members have other questions? So any, or Josh or Lori, any additional questions from staff on this plan? Okay.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Board members, additional questions from you?
I just have a question on the placement of the driveway. And that I'm assuming that the site distance for people traveling towards town is, because you can't really see above that. Has that been looked at or is that approved or does that meet the criteria for it? Yeah.
There is a site distance listed on the plan.
Oh, got it. Okay,
212 feet in that direction.
perfect. Okay.
I had actually asked Josh some questions too about the driveway today, because if you look, the neighbor's driveway intersects with this driveway when you get into the roadway. So I don't know if Josh, if you can just let them know your feelings on the driveway layout.
Yeah, I feel that this driveway layout is a much better location due to this increase in the site distance. Although it does connect to the other driveway, that's in the public way, so I don't believe that should be an issue. I know that you also had mentioned the fence along the property line there that separates those two parcels. I don't have any detail on the fence or how high it should be, but I think the builder and the owner should just be aware that we want to make sure that not only does it not affect the site distance, but also we want to make sure that the adjacent property is able to see the driveway so that we don't have two cars coming there at the same time, getting into an accident.
Yeah, I was thinking that fence has to come back a little.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions from the board?
I had a couple others. I just want to review what I have. If anyone else has questions, they can.
Well, why don't I, while you're looking your questions up, I think we have, this is a public hearing, so public comments are welcome, and I think I do see a hand up. So while you're looking that up, Amy, I will entertain any comments from the public.
Oh, no. All right.
No,
me.
really? No?
Sorry.
Okay. So first we have Doug Stone. I'm gonna bring in here. If you want to just state your name and address. Hi, Doug.
Hi, it's Doug Stone, 33 Birch Hill Road. And I just wondered, especially since the builders mentioned that they were concerned about improving the line of sight, is there any proposed deed restriction to maintain that?
Good question. Is there anything there, deed restriction of sorts on this property?
No, I don't think there's anything written. You could have that as a condition of approval that they keep this site areas clean though.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that if you could, that front setback area, might consider a proposal that nothing be grown or erected higher than 2 feet. And then that would give them the ability to put like a white picket fence along the road if they wanted. To keep traffic off, but then still maintain that sight distance perpetually.
great. That's a great point, Doug. Anything else on that?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Board members, is that something you're interested in? Maintaining the site distance perpetually?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It was actually in a
All right,
memo
that's a great
from Fred to the DPW, I mean, to the ZBA. Fred's letter said if approved, the variance should include, but we should put in the planning board site plan because we approved the site plan. It said should include a restriction preventing vegetation, stone walls, or other landscaping from being installed within the front yard setback, which would impair sight distance of vehicles traveling along Solomon Pond Road and Hudson Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and where was that, Amy? Fred's
It's in
letter?
the memo that Fred sent to the ZBA, and I think Lori forwarded it today.
So
but
is
it was
that a
like-
condition of the variance already, Lori, or should we add it? I guess Amy, you're suggesting we add
It is not a condition of the variance.
Okay,
Yeah, it wasn't added, but I also think even if it was, it should be part of the site plan because it's more of a site plan,
okay,
special permit thing.
okay, that's great. Great call out, Doug, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Amy, did you find your questions?
Yeah, some of them were from conditions we've had for other groundwater. And I know he said this is gonna be heated by natural gas, but I do think there should be a condition that this should not be heated by oil, because Fred used to always have that. He used to say it should be heated by natural gas, but now that people do geotherm, maybe we just change it up to be like, this should not be heated by oil, because what they didn't want is the oil to spill in the groundwater too. But I think it has to be a condition because you could have somebody in the future that says, you know what, this natural gas is pretty expensive. I think I'm gonna put in an oil tank. And I don't know
Excuse me,
if
Amy,
that would have to go back.
sorry to cut you off. There, fossil fuels are not allowed anymore. The building department will not even authorize a building permit with any fossil fuels. So that's
Oh, I
part of
didn't
the
know that.
ICC. So, you can make it a condition, but it'll never happen. Or, oil will never happen.
Oh, I didn't know that
Interesting.
you couldn't do oil anymore.
No more. No more oil, no more, wood burning fireplaces, none of that.
That's
Oh,
weird about the
good to know.
fireplaces.
Hmm.
Okay, and I also don't know if, conditions he used to have was putting in a minimum of one permeability test shall be performed for infiltration to verify all assumptions made in the design of the drainage system. I don't know if that's something that Josh would add. He always had the applicant must confirm the bottom of all infiltration areas are a minimum of 2 feet above any signs of groundwater. And then just looking, I looked at the previous conditions.
So are these are Fred's conditions from the previous?
Yeah, this was from 399. Which is a duplex down the street, or it could have been this previous one for 343. I looked at both of those decisions today.
So would it make sense then, Josh, as part of your next evaluation, if you took a look at those conditions from 399 and just evaluated the applicability here for possible inclusion? You don't have to do it right this second, but was that something that we could, you're on mute, so I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, we can do that. I can review for that, and, I did look at the existing, the stormwater report that was submitted. I believe I saw that in there, so I'll just have to point that out and, in a memo for you.
Okay, that's great. That would be helpful. Thanks so much.
I just wanted to bring up one point. Just going back to the planting plan, Vito, if you could stop sharing your screen again. And I'm gonna bring that back up again. So the front setback is 30 feet in this district. So I believe this tree is, of course, it's set back from the roadway, but it would be within that 30-foot front setback. So are you saying that you want that tree not to be planted? And are you saying that you want this tree to be removed?
That's what Fred had. So I don't know, is it getting in the way of the sight distance? Like, we're talking about the sight distance being better because the house is being moved back and not including plantings, but I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell if that tree gets in the way of the sight distance.
Yeah, the existing tree, it would be better if it were not there for sight distance, but I know that it sometimes you wouldn't want it to be taken down. I don't remember if that one is in very good condition. I thought a lot of the upper branches were dead, but just working off memory, so I'm not positive on that, but it would help the sight distance, that's all. But not critical.
This tree right here,
Mhm.
it appears to me to be set back far enough that it would not interfere with sight distance.
Right.
However, like I said, if we include a condition of approval that says that you can't include any landscaping over 2 feet in the front yard setback, then they can't plant this tree.
Yeah, maybe you could make a lesser setback, say within the sightline triangle or 20 feet or something like that.
Is 20 feet usually what is needed for sight distance when you're coming around the curve?
It depends on a site to site basis essentially. So you just look at where your sight line is, and then anything within that zone, you wouldn't want anything in there. So in this one, it's really a straight line. So just trying to get a uniform dimension. I think someone just threw out front yard setback because that would be more than enough. But in this case, less than that would be sufficient. But trying to get it, I don't have a dimension offhand that I could give you. We could just say in the sightline triangle, maybe reviewed by a town engineer or something like that. But I know you probably want to have a number to put in the conditions, like a 20-foot setback or something. I can look on the site plan quick.
Can it be pushed back a little, or does it get too close to the house?
Right, like some of that tree, I think you don't want it too close. Right now, our sight line that had the required sight distance was only about 10 feet into the property. But if you have more, then you get further sight distance. You can see all the way around this corner. If nothing's in the way, you can keep seeing around that corner even further and further. So it's just a weighing of sight distance versus landscaping kind of thing. So, where it is, you meet your minimum requirements, but if you want more, you keep moving stuff back. But like I said, where it's shown, I think you have enough sight distance though, from my end. And we could take a look at it with Josh if you want.
That'd be good. I also think the plant list needs to have a legend because we don't know what the H and the S mean.
Mhm.
And I do think
So the Excel spreadsheet does, for the most part, include the American name. It's only in a couple of circumstances where it doesn't.
does it say what the H and the S stand for?
It does
No,
not.
I don't have that either.
Yeah. I think it's important because we need to know how big the trees are when they plant them. Like, it makes sense that the S is what they're planting, but we don't know for sure.
All right, so if we could just get clarity on that. So here's what we have. We need some clarity on what a legend or a key for the spreadsheet. Josh, you're gonna take a look at sort of how this meets the groundwater criteria, even looking at perhaps 399 down the street in terms of what Fred had in there for possible conditions, for example, the permeability test. We're gonna add a condition about maintaining the site distance, which is actually somewhat drafted already as a condition from, I think, the variance application from May 24th. We have, let's see. Anything else missing at this time for this application that we need?
The curb,
Oh, the
we're gonna
curb,
do a
yes.
condition of approval for vertical granite curb at the rounding.
Okay, vertical granite curb at rounding. Okay,
Now, Lori, I know the fire chief letters, he said the turning radius follows AAS HTO. Does that have to be a condition? Like, do they know to go back and read the fire chief's letter? Or do we have to
No.
make those conditions?
I had actually already drafted a decision, but I didn't think that we'd be ready yet to finalize it, so I didn't share it with you folks. But I did include his comment as a condition of approval.
Okay, that and the angle of approach too.
I did.
Okay.
okay. Any other comments or questions?
I just had to ask, how high is the privacy fence?
It's a 6-foot vinyl fence. It's listed on the site plan.
Okay,
I believe it's
And
a
the-
white vinyl.
and each duplex is 2186 square feet? Or is that the first floor is 2186? Or how big are they?
The entire each one of them is to 2084. So let me get you the correct size here, Amy. Give me a second. And it says right here. So each unit is 2186, excluded the garage. The garage is considered unheated.
Okay, so the garage is like another 500 square feet, I think.
A little less than that, but
Yeah. And is there a full basement or it's unfinished
the-
basement?
the basement is proposed unfinished with a mechanical room.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, I think I see one more hand. I'm gonna reopen public comments just because I did it early last time. And Doug, I can't tell if you have your hand up again or if this is from before, so just gonna double check. Hi, Doug.
Hi, yes, I think if you kind of put both of those, the building plan and the plantings plan, like on top of each other somehow, then it'd make a better determination on the line of sight. Because it doesn't, it seems like that new tree, if that's what it is, the Acer tree, is just sticking out there quite a bit, so I think you should try to see exactly where it is.
Okay.
And make a decision there, but I mean, to me, it seems like the front setback line is easy to go by, but it's up to you guys.
Okay, all right, that's a great suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yep.
Okay, so maybe Vito, if there's a way to kind of show that to give us some perspective on
Mhm.
where that is, if not already. Or just when you take another look at it with Josh.
Okay, yeah, and I was thinking if we're gonna make revisions to the plan, we could show, you know, a hatched in area or something that's the no planting zone or the no,
Oh, great.
I don't know what you want to call it, but some, you know, sightline area. That way it could be clear on the site plan, and they could even, if they're gonna update the landscape plan at all, it could even be on that plan too.
Okay,
But everybody sees it.
that's great. Okay, do I have a list of everything that we need? We obviously have to continue this hearing to next time, so for Vito, Attorney Pembers, are you clear on what we're looking for before we continue to the next meeting?
I believe I am, yeah.
Okay, great. Attorney Pember, I think you opened with this, just mentioning what an eyesore it is there, and it certainly is. So it's nice to see something much needed improvement there. So thanks for
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Okay, so in terms of next options for meeting, our next planning board meetings are December 3rd and the 17th. For the applicant, is there a time frame that you think you need? Do you want to continue to the 3rd? And if you have to kick it again, that's fine, or what's the preference for the applicant? And Lori, do we have any other public hearings coming up in December?
We do not.
Okay, so what's the preference for the applicant?
Third.
Third.
The
Third.
3rd? Okay. All right, great. So why don't we, does 6 p.m. work?
Mhm.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so why don't we continue the hearing to December 3rd at 6 p.m. So in that case, is there a motion to continue the application by BD Homes for special permits for two-family dwelling in a residential C district and groundwater protection overlay district, area 2, and special permit with site plan approval for construction of a proposed two-family home on the property located at 343 Hudson Street, map 30, parcel 18, to December 3rd at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay, all in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
And carries an aye. Okay, great. So we'll see you back on December 3rd.
Right. So just as a
Yes.
footnote, I will not be available that night, but I don't want to delay this project in any way. So I think most of the conversation will probably be Vito's changes to the plan and conformity with the requirements that you set out tonight.
Okay, that's no problem. Thanks for letting us know.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we'll see you back in a few weeks.
Thank you.
All right,
Good night.
great. Next on the agenda, we have the application for a common driveway, special permit and site plan approval in residential A district for 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir Street, map 42, parcels 51, 52, and 53. We do have a public hearing notice that I will read into the record. Lori, do I need to read the beginning part of this since I already read it?
No, no,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Referencing the initial part of the public hearing notice that was previously read, that starts with in accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 48, Section 9. This public hearing notice includes the consideration for the application for site plan approval and a common driveway special permit in the residential A district for 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir Street, map 42, parcels 51, 52, and 53, submitted by the estate of Robert Romeo. The proposed common driveway will serve 3 proposed single-family homes. This application is on file at the town clerk's office and planning department and may be viewed on the planning board's webpage. So with that, why don't we bring in the next team here? Who is on this team coming in tonight?
Bob Parenti.
Okay, great. Bob, we're gonna move you over. Oops, taking a minute here. Hi, Bob. Is there anyone else on your team joining tonight?
Yes, I think I just unmuted my microphone. I had it shut off. Can you
No
hear me?
problem. Is there anyone else we can hear you. Is there anyone else joining you? Is it just you?
No, for tonight, it is just me to review the plans on behalf of the estate of Robert Romeo.
Great.
Robert Parenti. Let's see, Laurie, I'm not sure. So share the screen. I've never shared a drawing here.
Okay.
Let's see.
That's all right. If you need some help, we can jump in. Lori, do we have it on?
I just need to find my drawing. Let's see.
I've got it.
Okay.
Thank you, Laurie. Maybe if we go to the grading and drainage plan, Laurie. Okay, that's the full set.
It is, yes.
So why don't we go? Can I click down on them, or do you have to click down to get at
I'll
them?
have to click for you.
Okay, let's go maybe to the third. Yeah, to this drawing is probably the best representation for our discussion tonight, or for the initial discussion. We are proposing a 3-lot common driveway about 500 feet from the corner of Crawford Street. So if you come off of Church Street onto Crawford and take a quick right, we're on Reservoir Street. This is a 10-acre parcel of land that also includes Actually, the 10 acres doesn't include the existing house, which is 363 Crawford Street. But because of the wetlands area and the limitations with our wetlands and the 200 feet from the riverfront, we're not proposing anything with the existing house right now. That would have to happen with a revised septic and so forth and so on. So in order to try to meet the driveway grades that the Northborough regulations, we have pushed the driveway as far to the west as possible towards the neighbor, the Horgans. And initially you come in with a fairly sharp curve with a radius of 80 feet. And I know Laurie's letter mentioned a minimum of 60 feet, but which I didn't understand. So maybe some confusion looking at my drawing. I'm not sure, but center line radius of the common driveway coming in is 80 feet, as shown on the plans. So we are able to meet the driveway grades. They're currently under the regulations because we're coming in under 6% off of Reservoir Street. And then as we enter maybe 75 or 100 feet in, we increase to 9%. And then as we get up towards the back of the driveway or the southerly portion where the hammerhead is, between lots 2 and 3, that'll be approximately a 7% or a 7.2% grade. Now, in order to meet the stormwater regulations, we are proposing a closed drainage system for this driveway. Laurie mentioned, you all have a copy of Laurie's letter, Laurie's comments? Yes. Okay. So we did show our pavement width. We are asking for a waiver to 20 feet versus 22 feet. 20 feet is pretty much the minimum that the fire chief will allow in order to get his trucks up there in and out. So hopefully the planning board looks favorably on a 20-foot pavement width. Laurie did have a comment on the width of the easement. So I have a 30-foot wide easement with 20 feet of pavement. So there is, I might have been confused, but I did see in the common driveway regulations, in your regulations, that 24 feet is a minimum easement width. So I'm not sure exactly where the 33 feet comes from, but it's maybe more a roadway standard. So,
Bob, if I can clarify, so
Okay.
in our common driveway standards, there are different standards for a common driveway that serves 2 units versus a common driveway that serves 3 or more units. So if it's 3 or more units, it kicks you to the municipal code street standards, which are very outdated, I will admit. Those are from, I believe, the 1960s. And in those regulations, it says that the minimum easement width is 33 feet. So, of course, streets back in the old days, so roadways that were constructed before subdivision control law was put into effect were generally 33 feet wide. So that is why, that's the rationale behind that. Myself, if you were to submit a written waiver request from that requirement to suggest to the planning board that it would go down to 30 feet, I would have absolutely no problem for that. With that, I'm just saying that I cannot put anything in the decision as a waiver unless you request it in writing. So a lot of these comments say either comply with the regulation or submit a written waiver request. That is because the hands are tied. Otherwise, you're in violation of the regulation, and the planning board could deny you for that reason. So you either have to comply or you have to submit a written waiver request.
Okay, got it. So maybe could I take an informal poll with the planning board before we leave tonight, just as to the 30 versus the 33?
Sure, why don't we get through your presentation, Eric? I see there's
Yep.
a lot of work to be done still, so I just want to make sure we give you some time to cover what you need to cover, and then we'll figure out for any waivers. Sorry
Okay.
to stop for you, no problem.
So if I know that the new process with the planning board is to name the common driveway. So if I was going to send Laurie a letter after lunch, but I got called out an emergency. So if the planning board's agreeable, we will call this Romeo Common Driveway, only because the land has been in the Romeo family so long. So that's one of the items that I know that you are going to want to discuss. Laurie's got some comments about the actual construction of the driveway. We don't have a problem. I don't think anybody's got a problem upgrading the pavement to the standards that you like to see. That's not really an issue on the applicant's end of this. We did have a conservation meeting last night, and a lot of times these plans, stormwater management is the big deal to get everybody happy, the neighborhood and the town. So we are going to work with the Conservation Commission with the land disturbance permit and so forth. Our neighbor to the west does have a little bit of vegetation within the right of way, so that will have to be taken out in order to get the site distance looking west. Looking east towards Church Street, there are no issues with the site distance. I have asked the executive of the state, to come up. I gave him a copy of some sample homeowners agreements, so homeowner association, paperwork, but I just haven't heard back yet. So I will concentrate on him in the next couple of days to get me some paperwork. What else? I think Laurie had an item about item 18, Laurie, in your letter. No occupancy permit for any dwelling until the common driveway is 100%. I think your regulations allow, lot one is a conforming lot, even though the driveway goes through it. So if the planning board is agreeable, and I did limit the construction of the common driveway just to the end of lot one until the detention basins are functional. But I think that it wouldn't be unreasonable to allow a builder to sell lot one while he's working on the driveway itself. But I guess maybe you're looking for a bond on that end, and maybe the real crux is to ask for some kind of performance guarantee, which that would have to come from somebody else. That really can't come from me. But I think that's an item we just need to discuss in general.
Okay, so Lori. Oh, wait, I have some feedback there. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. You have quite a few comments here. And then I see that Josh had quite a few comments as well. Does this need, what's the best course of action to kind of get this plan in a little bit more of an advanced spot so that, I think there are some things that were missing as quite a few things I thought on Josh. Or Josh, did you want to speak to your letter at all? It looks like there were some things you wanted added or missing.
In general, the plan is a little tough to read, almost as if there's too much information on there. There's some notes that are overlapping, some leaders that are not pointing to the correct structures, things like that. I'd like to see also a common driveway plan as described in section 6.1 of the planning board regulations, and also profile of the common drive. It looks like there's drainage on one side of the common drive. Like to ensure that there's sufficient super elevation to push the water to the correct side of the driveway. There's some other notes that on the plan that should be addressed. Nothing that really sticks out, nothing that's going to stop the project. Just some notes that need to be adjusted so they're easier to read. And I think if you had that common driveway plan separate, it would be easier to review it than the one that has so much information on there at this time. I looked at the stormwater calculations. Everything looked good there. There was a permeability test performed. It provides enough groundwater recharge. TSS removal is above what's required. So there is just a couple issues with the stormwater design that need to be addressed. For example, on the plan, I can't determine where the trench drain connects to the system. There's also a outlet structure, OS1, that is showing to have an invert of, let me check my numbers here, I believe it's 381 for an outlet elevation, but there's no indication of where that outlet leads to. So there's a couple of minor issues that need to be addressed on the plans. Overall, the calculations looked good. I didn't have any major comments on the stormwater system.
Okay, and what was the outcome from the meeting last night from conservation? Is there anything of note? I don't know if you attend that, Josh or Lori, or was there anything coming out of that? Bob, anything coming out of Concom from last night, or?
Concom all comes down to stormwater management at this point. We
Okay.
do need a land disturbance permit, so the neighbors, the Horgans, Mr. Horgan chimed in. He's got some land that is lower than us, but we really won't be sending any more water his way. Whatever water he's getting now, I can't really change, and topographically, it doesn't look like he's getting a lot from our site, but his view is he doesn't want more water, which is fine, and we're not proposing to. We're trying to collect out all our water and keep it on site, basically. And I agree with Josh. There were a few liters that might have been shut off on the. There is supposed to be an outlet for OS1, the lower outlet structure. Normally, I come in. I met with Laurie and Vinny one time, and I'm not sure if Josh was available back then, but if we can meet the three of us and extend this meeting, till even December 17th would be okay, I think, on the applicant's end. To that meeting, because I want to make sure everything's clear when we come back. The lotting plan, I mean, it's pretty busy. Josh, I do need some easements for the pond, some drainage easements, but I was going to do an 81X plan with just the easements after we get through this process, if it was okay with the town. So there is a proposed lotting revision because Lot 1 on the previous A&R does not meet zoning requirements. It's not wide enough. So I've revised so what I now have is lots 1A, 2A, and 3A. But my applicant, the owner, didn't want to submit the revised A&R because he's worried about tax increases. So that has to also be reviewed by the planning board. But that's pretty much everything that got frontage, or everything will have frontage in area. And the easements are either going to be, the common driveway easement's either going to be 30 or 33. You're going to tell me that. The planning board advised.
Okay, so planning board members, and going back to 30 versus 33, any thoughts or obviously we're not going to vote on that tonight, but any objections or thoughts on that to be aware of at this point? Lori,
I
it
would
sounds
look
like
at
you're not
staff.
opposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lori, is that something that you think is reasonable?
I do, yes. My one request, and I did submit a comment about that, is to include the stormwater basins within the easement areas.
100%. Yes, we will need easements for the detention ponds. This proposed lotting plan is getting so busy. I was hoping to do that on a separate plan. So when Josh was mentioning a separate plan for the common driveway, I just have to know what he's looking for. That's all. So it'll be easy for me with him and resolve that.
Okay, so Lori, what do you recommend? So Bob, you've done a lot of work here and I appreciate that, but it's hard for us sometimes to, without staff being able to figure out certain things, for us to then make a good decision. So is that something, Lori, you think makes sense for Bob to take another shot at regrouping with you and Josh a little bit further, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, I'd be happy to sit down with him to go over these issues. And of course, the easement areas, the revised easement areas should include an access area from the common driveway. So this one in particular, that is to the midway point of the common driveway, that one, in particular, I want to make sure that there is enough easement width and appropriate location so that a machine can get in there to maintain this stormwater basin. So thought will have to be given to where the most appropriate construction access area is for this basin here. The one that's over by Reservoir, that's a piece of cake. It's right on the side of the road. And I just noticed a couple of comments that I think I forgot to include within my review letter that Josh and I had discussed when we did our site visit. Is I would love to see some sort of low shrubs along to kind of screen the view of this detention basin because it's right off of Reservoir Street. So it's a very shallow basin. I believe it's only 2 feet in depth. So I'm not concerned that a guardrail is necessary, but I would like to see something to kind of define that area to kind of prevent cars from going into it and also to make it more attractive, screen it from view. And then, as you had mentioned, Bob, the vegetation, particularly when looking to the left, within the right of way, it really needs to be cut back. So that would be another condition of approval that I think we should consider for the decision. So,
The shrubs, I think, were in your letter.
oh, they were in the
I think
letter?
you did have in
Okay.
your comments.
they
the
were in
little
the-
Maybe
shrubs.
I
You did
printed
have that
out an
somewhere, 'cause
older version and put it in the file, so that might be the issue. And then the other thing, Bob, just kind of, it's definitely helped me out, and I know it would help Josh. If you could take our 2 comment letters and you could respond underneath each comment how you addressed the comment. So then it just makes the review so much faster for us if we know whether you revise the plan or not.
Okay.
And what your explanation is for if you didn't revise the plan, why you didn't. So if I respectfully request that you do that.
I always do that, but I don't have Josh's letter yet. So if I could get that tomorrow, that'd be great. I already have yours. I already have your comments.
Okay, so outside of what we talked about, and I'll also open up for public comments, is there anything else that board members would be looking for if we continue this hearing? Amy, you have something?
Just have a quick question. In the common driveway, I think it was in the common driveway, it mentions, is this within 2,000 feet of water service? I know you say you're gonna do wells and septic, but I was wondering how far away the water service is.
There is water in Crawford Street, Amy, but there's a culvert that goes under that carries Cold Harbor Brook under Reservoir Street, and I think I can walk through it. So to go under it would be a little bit crazy. We might have to go 10 feet deep, which I think the fire chief, and I know your regulation, I don't know if it supersedes, sprinkling the houses, but I believe if the fire chief is okay, because he sent me a comment recently or prior that says that if we don't have town water, we'll have to sprinkle the buildings.
Okay,
Fire suppression.
I just noticed in our bylaws, it says if you're within 2,000 feet, you should try to extend it and run it up. And I know the last common driveway, they did do that. So maybe that's something you can talk about with Lori and Josh, if it's something that can be done or not.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yes, yep.
Okay, anything else? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open up for public comments. Let's see, I have Doug Stone here. I'm gonna bring in. Okay, and you can stop sharing. Oh, Laura, you're sharing, not Bob. That's okay. Either way, it's fine. Hi, Doug. Just your name and address for this particular section. Oops, you're on mute, Doug.
Yeah, Doug Stone, 33 Birch Hill Road. I just wondered if they would consider possibly a sidewalk.
Is there the ability, Lori, for a sidewalk there?
Well, common driveways are private, so it's not in our standards to require a sidewalk on common driveways.
So it's never gonna be asked to be a public way then, right?
It is not, so it will never be eligible for public way because of the way it's approved. So it'd have to go through definitive subdivision approval process in order to be eligible for a public way.
Great.
So it's a different permit.
This just reminded me, so do they need anything for the A&R? Is that something that's required as well, Lori?
We approved an A&R maybe a year or more ago,
Okay, so that's all set. The A&R is all set.
That's
but
gonna get revised, kid. That will get revised because lot one is non-conforming. I don't know exactly
So do
what
we have
land
to,
planning.
do we have to approve that in advance of this?
it could be a condition of approval
Okay.
if they wanted to wait.
Okay, Michael Horgan, I'm gonna bring you in to talk here. Hi, Michael, just your name and address.
Michael Horgan, 17 Reservoir Street. I've got just a number of comments or questions, I suppose. As Bob Prente had suggested, we did attend the Conservation Commission meeting last evening. I know one of the concerns we had, I know he mentioned the runoff down into our property on 17 Reservoir Street, which is still a concern, but one of the comments we had, or one of the concerns, was the lack of clarity on the building footprint and the extent of land disturbance that would be required for each home. And definitely in relation to what that might mean in terms of stormwater runoff, as well as direction of flow from any grading from around those homes. What's on the plan now is a proposed home, but it's not really, it's not a definitive structure. It's not saying that this is what's actually going to be built there, and there's no real clarity on how much land around those structures, those three structures, will be disturbed. So that's something that was brought up in last evening's meeting. I do have a specific question, though, also about the location of the driveway as it comes on to Reservoir Street. I know our property is directly adjacent to this proposed development. It's hard for me to tell how far that driveway is from our property line and what the standards are of how far away that might have to be from a property line. I know from the plan, it looks like it comes fairly close. Is there any way of knowing how distant it is from the property line for the location of the driveway exit onto Reservoir Street?
You want me to respond to that, Carrie or Lori?
Is that visible here?
Yeah, so the planning board regs say that the easement has to be 15 feet off the lot line minimum, and I think we are 20.
Okay.
That was good. That was a good question, because really, unfortunately, with the 200-foot riverfront and the slope of the land, I'm kind of stuck putting the entrance where it is. I would like to move away, but it's not going to happen that I can see.
I know one of my concerns would be storage of snow and that sort of thing that would be, as that snow gets plowed up and the direction and where that would be. But if it's 20 feet, that sounds like that might be enough. Another question I have, and this has to do with the whole parcel, I suppose. And I know we're specifically talking about these 3 lots, but this was part of one larger lot. And whether or not these 3 lots are meeting whatever town standards there are, I'm really curious on the remaining lot where the existing home is. Does that lot still meet the standards of a lot in Northborough? Does it have the required square footage of upland and whatever is required? I don't know what the exact standards are, but it seems like it's kind of jammed down in there. I don't know if that is gonna be, acceptable lot from town standards with where the existing home is.
So Laurie, do you see that as an issue, or is that lot 4 there?
So it does have plenty of frontage, and it does have 3.51 acres of area. So our bylaw says that in order for it to be buildable, of course, is already a structure on it. 50% of the land has to be contiguous upland. So that information isn't provided on this specific plan as to the amount of upland. But I think it probably was provided on the A&R plan, but that was so long ago, I can't say for certain.
Okay, but Michael, it's a good call. We can always take a look at that. And that's lot 4. Uplands. And then you had asked about the land disturbance. I think that's the jurisdiction of Concom. Is that correct, Laurie? The land
It
disturbance?
is, although I did also make a comment asking for this plan to show the limit of disturbance. So we don't really
Okay.
get into the particulars of the houses themselves. So usually for illustration purposes, they just put a rectangle on the parcel. And then it's up to the Conservation Commission and the building inspector to ensure that the home complies with the various other dimensional requirements. So usually at this stage, nobody has any idea what style of home is going to be erected on these parcels. So
Okay,
we're
and then
more
also,
concerned about the driveway itself.
and then also what that disturbance and whatever runoff from the roof would be for the stormwater, because that obviously would lead to increased runoff on the property, I would imagine as well. But that sounds like that's all Conservation Commission.
It is.
Okay. Now, the other question I have is that Reservoir Street does fall under the scenic roads bylaw, the Northborough bylaw, and my question is, is there a separate public hearing for that, or what board does that fall under in terms of whatever approvals are required for the land disturbance along a scenic roadway in Northborough?
So the scenic road bylaw is a planning board approval. So they have not yet submitted an application for a scenic road approval. So the public hearing would be held by the planning board at the appropriate time.
Okay, and then that would address whatever disturbance of land or how much, trees or whatever construction takes place along the scenic road.
Well, there is some overlap because, of course, you can see that they are proposing a detention basin within the area that adjacent to Reservoir Street. So in order to accommodate the basin, they would have to impact and remove trees. So the scenic road bylaw only has protections for historic stone walls, so like farming walls, as well as trees.
Okay, so Lori, would that would be something that would be tripped We would get that to us prior to the approval of this plan, if that's necessary.
Well, I mean, they could file it now or they could file it later. A lot
But
of
either
the-
way, it comes around if it triggers something.
Yeah, and it's only within the right of way too. So we're only talking about trees and stone wall within the right of way.
Okay, got it. Okay, any other
Okay.
questions, Michael?
Yeah, one other question. So, I don't know really if this falls under the planning board's jurisdiction or not, but you know, there are some notes on the plan about storage of soil and that sort of thing. And there are a lot of invasive vegetation along Reservoir Street, both the bittersweet as well as the Japanese knotweed. I'm concerned about that being spread as, you know, wherever that soil is moved to or stored. And I don't know that that might be outside of your jurisdiction, but that is a concern of ours, particularly along Reservoir Street, because the invasive species are getting pretty rampant on this roadway.
That's a great point. Is that Earthworks, Lori, that would take a look at the soil movement?
Well, generally, yeah, I'm not sure if Earthworks is triggered. Josh, maybe you would know. I'm not very familiar with that regulation because I don't have any authority. So
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the earthwork, what would trigger an earthwork review at this point in time. I can look into the rules and regulations and try to determine what it would be. I know that board hasn't met in a fairly long time. But if it meets the regulations, I'm more than welcome to have a meeting for it.
Okay, that's great. If that triggers that for whatever reason. I see another hand up in the audience here. Lisa Orr, if you want to just state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Lisa Orr. I'm at 6 Reservoir Street. So I'm directly across the road from where the driveway would go in. And I have a few questions. One of them is there any limit of tree cutting not on the roadway? They're going to cut a lot of trees to make the road, but in the like area where the houses are going to be, does the town have limitations on stuff like that? I'm sorry, I'm sort of new in Northborough.
That's okay. Laura, they're not on private property, is there?
So generally, these plans would show a limit of disturbance. So they would be allowed to cut trees that are within the limit of disturbance, and then trees that are outside the limit of disturbance would have to remain as is. So they will have to clear. So that plan showed quite a bit of great. I'm sorry, I'm going to share that plan again just so I can show you the. So there are a number of contour lines, so you can see all of these. So wherever the contour lines are kind of smooth, those are showing changes of elevation from what currently exists. So there's quite a bit of clearing that's going to take place here and in here, and associated with this lot. So all of the trees wherever the ground contours change, those trees will be removed. And then maybe Bob, you can expand further.
Yeah, so I think I did submit a land disturbance plan but maybe I only gave it to the conservation.
I don't
So
think we received
I
that.
I drew a line. It's not in that set. It's not in the set that I gave you. Okay. I do have the limited disturbance. So we have between the 3 lots, we have 10 acres. And the total disturbance with the detention ponds and the houses that I'm showing is about 4.5 acres. So we're disturbing less than 50% of the land. So typically, in a lot of your zoning districts, I think, like Residence A, 30%, you can have 30% impervious. We have about 45% total disturbance. So I could get you the numbers for the houses and the driveways, but I don't have it on the top of my head. The impervious for this proposed project. But total disturbance at this point in time is 4.5 acres. And I know that Justin on the conservation had a question. What if somebody builds a bigger house? So when we get down to the nitty gritty with the conservation, we may have to limit or put a number to the amount of disturbance in each lot. That might be the fair thing to do for the town and the neighbors and the applicant. I'm sure if that's been done before, but that would be my gut feeling.
Okay, and that would come
You
out of
could do it.
conservation.
I think that's gonna get generated from the conservation review, correct?
Okay, that's great. Okay, Lisa, did you have any other questions?
Yeah. Let's see. Is that, okay, so that access to that little, retention pond that's kind of in the middle of the property there, is that going to be a paved thing, or is that like, the access to clean that up?
I can speak to that. So we have a drainage pipe that's gonna feed the water or to supply the water to that pond. So we're gonna need a construction road in there to get concrete trucks in there because we're proposing a concrete wall. So instead of doing a berm type of thing and going into the 200-foot undisturbed area for the conservation, in my vision, it's better for us to build a concrete wall, retain the water. So we'll have a construction road, and that will probably just end up to be a gravel road. And that will be an easement also, Laurie. That will be let's say a 30-foot wide maintenance easement, let's say, on the final version. So because I've got so much information on that logging plan, I was going to do a separate easement plan if the town's agreeable. Because I already have all the information. It's just hard to show it, like Josh is trying to read stuff that's overlapping. It's just hard to show everything on the set the way we have it.
Okay, so maybe next time around that would just be a little clearer. So that sounds great.
And how often do trucks need to go in there to maintain that thing?
Well, once the pond is built, Lisa, it's just a matter of taking out some of the silt, if there is any. So if someone builds 3 houses and they lumen seed the project, there really is not a lot of silt going in there, 1 year after construction. So I think we have an operation and maintenance plan that we submitted in our stormwater management report, Mark Elbag, and I'm going to say it's once a year you check it or once every 2 years. That would be my gut feeling, but
yeah,
I can check it for you. So not weekly, not monthly, not anything like that.
Okay. Anything else, Lisa, that you have?
One more. Sorry, this is important to me as I walk my dogs up and down this Reservoir Street every single day. So the basin detention pond that's down here, I'm not sure what that looks like. Is that like an open thing? Kind of.
That's a graded depression. So we graded depression. We take the topsoil out. We create a depression. There has to be an outlet structure in there because I just can't send all the stormwater there at one point. So we store a little bit and it goes out slowly. And then if you did have a 100-year storm, I think it's got an open grate on the top and the water will just flow in the open grate. So it's fairly shallow. There will be a concrete structure in it on the east side. There'll be a concrete structure, which is maybe why Laurie wanted to see some shrubbery. But that's the way these things work. That's the way they're designed.
Okay, so it'll look like a curb or something?
It will look like a round concrete cylinder.
Okay, so it's kind of like a culvert?
Culvert vertically, yeah, correct.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But it'll only stick up maybe 3 feet. It just has to. If I look at the elevations in detail, I can tell you how much it's going to stick up. It should be below the road elevation though, because we cannot overtop water into the road.
Gotcha. Okay, that's important. I'm curious. Yeah.
So I'm picturing the overflow about a foot below the road. That's what I think. That's what I think the numbers are.
Okay, and then is there any, my last I guess comment is how is that maintained in terms of like there are so many bittersweet seeds and Japanese knotweed, and I'm personally on a war against that stuff. And and I am, just it gets everywhere. Would it get in there and grow out? Would it choke it? I'm not sure because, some maybe silt and compost happens and then, is there any chance of maybe flooding the roadway because this thing might overfill with vegetation? And I'm sorry if that's a naive question.
No, that's good. That's a good question. Yeah, it shouldn't. So it should be, the bottom can be loomed and seeded because we're not infiltrating water into this pond. So it should not get overgrown with that. I didn't really see the knotweed in there, but the bittersweet, and I know the bittersweet has killed a few of the trees in there already. So if it's properly maintained, which is going to be the responsibility of the 3 owners with the agreement that they're going to have to all sign and live with, it should not be an issue. And it wouldn't overtop and overflow the road because it's designed to flow into our wetlands area on our property. It's designed so that if the detention pond couldn't handle it, it'll just flow overland to the wetlands. But we have had some crazy storms in the last year or two, so we can only design for the 100-year storm.
Okay, so that's great. Really great comments and questions tonight. I think we have next steps for this one. Bob and Laurie and Josh, it sounds like you're going to get together again. And we are going to, Bob, it sounded like December 17th sounded like to where you'd want to continue.
Yes, do I need to make a request to extend it, or is that something?
No, so tonight we'll just vote to continue the public
Okay.
hearing to December 17th, if that, so we'll say 6 o'clock, we'll say 6:05, if that works. Obviously, we do have no, actually we don't, 6. We don't have any other hearings that night, Laura. You said no hearings.
Okay.
So if we could continue to December 17th to 6 p.m. and then if for some reason you need more time, you can always request to continue through Lori, and we can entertain that as well. So planning board, is there a motion to continue the public hearing, the application for a common driveway special permit site plan approval in the residential A district for 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir Street, map 42, parcels 51, 52, and 53, submitted by the estate of Robert Romeo, to December 17th at 3 p.m.
So moved.
Second?
6 p.m.
I'm sorry.
3 p.m. or 6 p.m.?
6 p.m. Did I say
6
3?
p.m.?
Okay, so you're keeping me on track.
I think you did,
Thank
yeah.
you. Motion
All
to
right.
continue December 17th at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Anthony?
Hi.
Amy? Oops, you're mute, I think, Amy. We're gonna go to Millie. Oh, Amy's at Millie?
Aye.
And Carrie's an aye. Okay, great. So we will continue this hearing to December 17th at 6 p.m. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you all.
All right, have a good night.
Yep.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have the new proposed name for common driveway at 8595 West Street. Previously, the board had met and the street proposed was Phineas Way. There's a new proposal to name the street Ignatius Common Drive. So we received a couple letters about this. The board of selectmen did as well. The board received this as a second option. Any initial comments from board members or issues, thoughts on this?
We haven't had any comments or feedback on this name, have we?
So I did reach
I
out.
don't- Okay.
I did reach out to the fire department, the police chief and DPW to see if they had any issues, and there were no issues.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not aware of any letters that said otherwise. It seemed like the only letters the board has received has been not wanting the original name, but nothing about Ignatius.
I did receive, well, everybody did, an email today from somebody who was concerned about the original name. And I responded saying that this new name was proposed, and I didn't receive anything back.
Okay, so in terms of so it sounds like no board members object to changing the name.
No, I do
Okay.
not.
So Lori, this is not a typical vote we would take or anything. Is this just something that we would write a letter, or what's the right course of action for something like this?
Well, since you voted on the last one, if you could make a vote that rescinds the approval of Phineas Common Drive and vote to approve this new name of Ignatius Common Drive, that would make it clean.
As one motion or separate motions?
I think to do it
Separate.
properly, they should be two separate motions.
Okay. So is there a motion to rescind the approval of Phineas Way for the common driveway at 8595 West Street?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Anthony,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
Carries an aye. Is there a motion to approve the name Ignatius Common Drive for the common driveway at 8595 West Street?
I'll keep going. So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Millie,
Aye.
and carries an aye. Okay, so then Lori, in terms of, is there any additional paperwork or memo or letter that needs to go for this?
Yes, I will draw up the new letter. And are you okay with me signing it on behalf of the planning board, or Carrie, would you prefer to sign it?
I'm okay with it if board members are okay.
Okay.
All right. Great, thank you for that. Okay, next on our agenda, we have approval of the minutes from October 1st. There was an amended set that was shared with the board. Did everyone have a chance to read the amended minutes?
Yes.
Yep.
Any further amendments or comments?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes from October 1st as amended?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Billy?
Aye.
Carries an aye. Okay, so next we have, I'm going to skip the discussion of bylaws for annual town meeting tonight. We do have a meeting on economic development on December 11th, Lori.
Correct, and it's now going to be held at the senior center at
Okay,
7 p.m.
At the senior center at 7 p.m. We have the economic development hearing. So I think once we get through that, and Lori, I know you mentioned some comments, and I think we all saw some comments came back from Bob on some of was it the inclusionary zoning amendment?
He provided comments on pretty much, I think there were 3 different bylaws. So one had to do with ADU, comments on sign bylaw, and I think the other one was on the single family. So if you have adjacent lots held in common. So
Okay.
I have made some modifications. I will forward those to Bob. So hopefully he and I can get on the same page with the changes. And then I will share those with you when we are on the same page.
Okay, that sounds great. So maybe on either the 3rd, we can look at it then, or the 17th, or at least start it on the 3rd, perhaps. If it's not ready, we'll just do the 17th. So whichever the case. Next ZBA meeting is on the 26th. Anything there happening?
we got a very busy night. We have 4 applications for that night. One is a big change. So it's a modification of the assisted living facility on King Street. So they are asking for use variance. So instead of doing an assisted living establishment, they want to do what's called a senior living facility. So it would have more active seniors. So it wouldn't have a memory care unit anymore, although it would have rooms that could be used by professionals to provide services to the seniors. So then he's also proposing to change the parking configuration. So of course it would include a number of additional parking spaces because these are active seniors. So he's proposing to put those underneath the building. And then there's also changes to grading and otherwise. And then we have 3 additional applications. One is a use variance to allow a home occupation within a townhouse. Right now, our zoning bylaw says that you can only do a home occupation within a detached single-family home. Then we have another one, which is a dimensional variance. And then we have a 4th one, which I haven't reviewed yet. It's to allow a glass business. I believe it's a groundwater special permit.
I'm just curious, what home occupation are they doing?
So it would be a mobile dog grooming business. So he would have an office within his townhouse, and that is the work that he would be doing. Then he would have his van parked in the driveway, but he wouldn't service any dogs in his driveway. So he would drive the van to the customer's house, groom the dog there, and then drive to the next customer, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. All right. Other than that, if there's no other business before the board or the board to discuss, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
And Carrie's an aye. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.